he did a lot of work to retrace the blood lineage, to learn ceremony. He lived on reservations and was a sun dancer and just awoke those sacred ways in our bloodline.
Oh, yeah. Welcome to Wild and Finally Fucking Free, hosted by me, soul-fueled storyteller Kylie Fatchett. We dive into the truth-talking, unedited stories of metamorphosis, growth, and evolution. I deeply believe that sharing our stories holds transformative magic. Join us to listen to future humans, change agents, extraordinary ordinary people, healers, and paradigm shifters as we honor the power of our messy, magical stories. Let's get wild and finally fucking free together. Welcome, everybody. I am very excited to bring Melanie Monaco to you today. Hello, Melanie. How are you?
Hi, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited to have this conversation. It's springtime here, and I just feel like there's so much spring energy because you're creating like prolifically at the moment. I know you're not in spring, but for those who don't already know you, could you introduce your beautiful self?
Yeah. Well, it's currently autumn where I am, and it was the first day of autumn recently, and it is gorgeous. I live in Maine, and so right now we have all of the colors changing in the trees, and the leaves are falling, and the smell is so beautiful. Like it just smells good. So I live in southern Maine, which is as far north as far north
As you
as you can get in the continental United States. Yeah. But originally I'm from Southern California, so almost as far south as you can get on the other coast.
We used to live in Portland, Oregon, so I haven't got to Maine. I haven't gotten that far up. I've been to New York, but not north of New York. So I hear it's beautiful.
Yeah, it's definitely a different energy up here, but it's really beautiful this time of year. And I landed here because my husband is from Maine. So, but we met in New York, actually. We went to school in New York City. Yeah. Yeah. This is such a winding way to introduce myself, but
unfolding.
Now everybody listening knows where I live.
And who are you?
So and who am I? So I work in the world of self-love, spirituality, what I call alchemical coaching, energy healing, anything that it has depth and enchantment to it, take me there.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. But I mean, title-wise, I'm a priestess and a self-love coach. I created the first ever self-love coach certification on the market because I started self-love coaching. People were like, how did you do that? And I mishmashed together all of these different trainings to really weave in what I wanted to do. And then when people started asking me, how did you do that? I'm like, well, I studied archetypal psychology and the psychology of transformation in college. And I was a yoga teacher and a group fitness instructor. And I went to nutrition school and I did energy healing and, like shadow work facilitator training, all these things. And then somebody asked me, well, can you train me? And I was like, who am I to do? And at the time, I was in my 20s and I was like, I'm a baby. But I did it. I put together the self-love coach certification program and it was the first ever. And and now we've had over 400 grads, which is amazing.
Wow. How many years ago was that? What are we talking time-wise?
Early 2020.
Wow. Oh, wow. The timing just after COVID.
Oh,
as in COVID.
It was like COVID. Right as, yeah. Yeah. So I was writing out the outline and making the landing page and everything, like just creating the course in January. And the first class was May.
Wow. Oh my goodness. What do you feel into, like, when you think back to that, the comment you just made, like, I'm just a baby, like, what has that kind of internally transformed for you to step into that evolution of actually saying, I do know enough, like there is a depth here that I can package and teach and pass on down the line to
Yeah.
the people that want to learn from me? What's been the shift?
Well, my experience of entrepreneurship has been a combination of following what lights me up and what
Hmm.
inspires me and where my interests are,
Yeah.
and also following where my community is asking me to go.
Yeah. Beautiful.
And I think that's what has been the recipe for creating a sustainable
Yeah.
business, is that when you have like the Venn diagram of those two things, your business in the middle is going to thrive.
Hmm.
Um, and it certainly had its seasons. Entrepreneurship, I've recognized, it's not a straight line. It's, quite wavy and fun to
And
to
it's the
go
biggest
on, but
self-development, petri dish
it
of
is.
self-development.
Yeah. But I just was hungry, and I still am. I'm hungry for expanding my community and meeting new people and stretching my capacity for what I think I'm capable of. And I feel really strongly that this is my work in the world. And so I'm like, I have to find a way to make this my job. And I worked 3 months at a desk job in my like straight out of college. And I
Yep.
was like, never
I
again.
am not
So I
doing this. I love it. I love, I've
yeah.
actually had, this week has been a multitude of interviews with people that are significantly younger than me. And I just love the fact that all of you have like I don't know what I want to say, like the steely spine that says this is not for me so early, because I did that. Like I did
Mhm.
jobs that bled me dry for like 2 decades before I woke up. And then it took me another half a decade to kind of gather the courage to step out of it. And I just love the fact that, and I think it is also because entrepreneurship is like, yeah, there is an option here. Like it's not just you get a job or
Yeah.
you whatever, get a bricks and mortar business. But I just love that because it's just like, there's so many more in your generation stepping into their legacy work early rather than,
Mhm.
and I don't think there's anything wrong with, our lives unfold as we're meant to, but it's just, I just think it's speeding up the paradigm shifting that's happening because we've got more people doing the work that is required to make those shifts, which I find, yeah. And when you say depth and enchantment too, I just want to, well, first of all, actually, when you say archetypal,
Archetypal.
architectural
Mhm.
psychology would be weird. Um,
Sure. I mean, that's like I could go into that, the architecture of your brain. Where are the doors?
yeah, where are the
Let
doors?
me
Where are the
in.
closed rooms that have the no-go sign?
Yeah.
Ah,
Yeah,
what drew
exactly.
you to psychology though to start with? Was that the entry point? Was that the kind of first body of work that you sort of dove into?
Such a good question. And actually, so I think I have to go way back to
Yeah.
when I thought, well, I always thought when I grow up, I'm going to be an actress and I'm going to work in theater and I'm
Hmm.
going to do music. And actually, my husband runs a music studio out of our house and we do events here. So it's still a part of my life. But I thought I was going to be like performing and
Yes.
creating theater pieces.
Hmm.
And this was like, my entire adolescent. I actually went to a conservatory high school for
Oh, cool.
theater. Yeah, I know. But I realized so much of what I loved about that as I got older and like in my, late teens, early 20s, went to
Hmm.
college. I realized so much of what I loved about that was first of all, the ritual of it, and theater and as all art
Oh,
began as
true.
ritual and
Yes.
ceremony. So a lot of the pieces I was creating were looking at theater as ceremony and theater as ritual and like
Yeah.
immersively connecting with the audience and creating that enchantment and these worlds of metaphor that exist inside our subconscious and just bringing them out to life.
That makes so much
And what I
sense.
also loved about it, yeah, and what I also loved about it was like from a perspective of, when I was acting, which, yeah, I'm glad I'm not doing anymore, but what I was, so much of it understanding um what the motives of like the person that you're playing, right? Like
Yes.
what do they want and what are they running from and what are they and like I found it so interesting to dive into the psychology of different characters.
Uh-huh.
Um and I think any acting training, if it's a good one, is training in psychology and understanding the human experience.
I've never thought about that
So
before, but it
that
is. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely it is. And so that was an entry point, and then also, I mean, I was in therapy starting at 8 years old.
Yeah.
I'll have to, like,
High
go into
five.
my entire childhood. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But, like, obviously, there was, like, stuff going on that would send an 8-year-old to therapy, and so but I always loved it. You know, I just always had therapists or coaches or mentors, and that just has always been a place when I'm working on myself and understanding myself and healing has always been a happy place for me.
Mhm.
Obviously, not always an easy place, but like a place where I feel like, you know, where I'm doing the healing work, where I feel like I'm soothing my soul in different ways.
It's depth
Yeah,
too,
I think
right?
that
Like
answers the
you
question.
started with the depth and enchantment, and it's like understanding yourself at deeper and deeper levels is obviously,
Yeah.
that's something that really speaks to you. That makes very much sense. As you're talking about acting, I feel when I'm writing copy for someone, I often will use the phrase like I'm slipping into their skin. And so when you're talking about act, it
Mhm.
kind of feels the same. It's like trying on a different values, different language, different motivations, different, drivers, etc. So yeah, I understand that. I've never really thought about acting like that, but now you say it, I'm like, of course it is. This would be crazy.
Yeah. Well, and it's also very therapeutic. It was the only place where I could actually express emotion without being
Yes.
invalidated or punished for it. Right. And being able to cry and be
Mm.
applauded for it.
Or
I mean,
angry, or like any of the.
oh, yeah. Yeah, exactly.
I feel
So
like
it's
I need to go to
very,
acting school, Melody.
oh, yeah. Drama therapy is a whole thing. But yeah, I mean, I feel like if you're somebody who, you know, had an experience of emotional neglect as a child, which like
Yeah.
very commonplace experience in our
Mhm.
society, that for me, I mean, that became a place where I was able to experience and express and process emotion. And actually, when I stopped acting is when like the real symptoms of CPTSD from my childhood set in. And that was a really beautiful and continues to be beautiful experience of healing, you know, but I acting was was a great way to mitigate a lot of
Yeah.
the trauma and turmoil that I was experiencing at a young
Mm.
age.
It's kind of like releasing the pressure in a pressure cooker, right? But then if you keep the lid on it, it's
Exactly.
like, oh shit, it's coming out the sides now. Like, and so did you study, where did you start studying psychology? Was that college or like later on?
It was in college,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, so I went to Sarah Lawrence College, which is right
Right.
outside of New York City,
Mhm.
and, it's technically a liberal arts degree, which I loved because you can study as many things as you want,
Yeah.
and you just get the same degree. So I studied theater and music and, fairy tales, the, like, psychology of fairy tales.
Oh.
Yeah. So and mythology
Yeah.
and, um, yeah, I mean, the psychology of children's literature, so cool. The psychology of religious transformation. I mean, there's so many, like, hyper specific classes
That's so good
that
though.
I
But there's
got
a
to
golden
do.
thread that connects all of these things. Like as
Exactly.
we are, and then that's what I'm always fascinated about, where how people have ended up being pulled towards whatever work that, their soul work is. And it's like, oh, here's the golden
Yeah.
thread. We are traveling down the golden thread. Can you tell me more about what is archetypal psychology?
Yeah.
I've not heard that
Yeah.
term before. I know what an archetype is, but yeah, fill us in with the
Yeah,
how it
yeah.
connects.
So, it's in the same world as Jungian psychology. So
Mhm.
Carl Jung was a psychoanalyst,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of psychoanalysts out there. I studied with Dr. Clarice Pinkolistes, who wrote Women Who Run with the Wolves,
Yes. Oh
not in
my
college, outside of
goodness.
college. Yeah. I did a facilitator training with her and
Stop
and
it.
she blessed me.
Oh, Melanie, I feel like I want to climb through the screen and hug you now. I mean,
Thank
I
you.
already wanted to do that, but even more so.
Yeah. I know. And I was
Wow.
the youngest one at that training too. That was when I was like fresh out of college. And it was, yeah, I mean, it was mind blowing.
Wow.
So life changing. Yeah. So archetypal psychology is working with the archetypes when you're understanding yourself. And it's also so similar to the priestess work that I do because archetypes, and for those who are listening who don't know what archetypes are, they're energetic
Mhm.
embodiments of different experiences and qualities. And so to put this into really easy to understand context,
Mhm.
if you take the fairy tale Cinderella,
Yes.
Cinderella herself is an archetype, right? And we have this rags to riches story that we
Mhm.
see in cultures all around the world. Like
Yep.
Cinderella is the most prolific fairy tale,
Mhm.
and it's called different things in different places. But Cinderella is an archetype, as is the maiden, right? Cinderella is also a maiden, and
Yep.
she's also a princess. And those are different archetypes. And we
Mhm.
have different archetypes within us. And so if you're looking at it through the lens of Carl Jung, you would say like he had the hero's journey and he has
Yes.
documented different archetypes, right? And then some of his some amazing psychoanalysts who are trained by him or trained by people who are trained by him in that lineage
Yes.
have documented different archetypes, like Dr. Clarissa Pinkola-Estes wrote the book Women Who Roam with the Wolves, which is the wild woman archetype. And that's an
Yes.
archetype that she has focused on and brought
Yeah.
to light.
And
Married
that
Woman has done a lot of other ones too.
speaks to me. The
Yeah.
wildness. I tried to read that book when I was probably about 25, and I was just not able to understand it. Just, I couldn't wrap my
Yeah.
head around it or my soul around it more precisely. But I just maybe about 3 or 4 years ago now read it, and I was like, how can I
Mm,
not want to just absorb this into my system? But I obviously just wasn't
mhm.
ready or wasn't open? Or, I don't know. But oh my God, to
Yeah.
actually train with her, that's very cool. Very, very cool.
It was very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So from psychology, so because you've also because what I love about when you talk about your work, there's so many different layers that you're bringing in. So there's like the embodiment, the yoga. Do you do breath work as well? I don't know if have you.
Oh, yeah. I mean, somatic work is such an integral part
Yeah.
of, I think, if you're leaving out somatics, then you're leaving out a really important part of the process.
Well, you're not.
Our
Yes,
bodies.
exactly. You're not approaching
Yeah.
from
Our bodies
all
hold
the
all of it.
angles.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Oh, so good. So tell me then, how did you end up with the self-love end of things? And like,
Yeah. Oh, that's a good story.
yeah, I'm really because
Yeah.
as I'm hearing you talk about CPTSD, that's the opposite of self-love. That what my experience of that has been, and I don't know if
Hmm.
that's the same with you, but that to me, my experience through childhood trauma was all about self-abandonment and self-rejection and making other people's needs more important than mine. So self-love really
Mm,
speaks to me. Is that a similar? It's like your voids drive your values type of.
totally. I mean, for me, self love actually was birthed out of struggling with eating disorders
Mhm.
and body dysmorphia and all of that. Um, and in my family of origin, like food and body and weight was like the topic of conversation.
Yeah.
And at a certain point, I was actually in a Kundalini yoga retreat with my mom, and I was 17. And it dawned on me. I was like, oh, I could choose to love myself. I was in, have you done Kundalini?
Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you know ego eradicator when you're doing,
Yes.
you have that? Okay, so I was
So
doing
I was
ego
literally.
eradicator.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry. Go. Yeah.
Were you
I was
just
just.
doing ego eradicator?
I was just over this weekend because I was looking into. There's another Kundalini one. I can't even remember what it's called. In the one where your arms are going in different directions, right? And then I
Oh,
came
yeah, yeah,
across
yeah,
the
yeah,
ego
yeah.
eradicator, and I'm like sitting in my office doing that. My husband's like, "What is going on here?" What's all the
Good
arm
one.
waving and anyway, continue.
Yeah. So I was sitting in ego eradicator and I was like, wait, I could choose to just love my body. Like I could choose to not just spend all this time hating my body because it was like consuming almost all my thoughts. And then I realized, I mean, it took years after that. I did not
Yeah.
heal my eating disorder at 17. But, that was the beginning of it.
Mm.
And then when I decided I wanted to step out into the work professionally when I was in my early 20s, the self-love lifestyle as a name just came to me, and that love has always been a really big, this is like so cliche, but it's been like love has always been the thing of like God is love and I am love and we are love. I
Mm.
talked to my grandmother and her thing, she's like, my thing is peace and your thing is love. Cause she's
Love.
always like, how
Yeah.
can I find peace and peace? And, I think some of us have these maybe archetypes or qualities, right, that we anchor into. And so love was just a big one for me.
Freedom.
Um, oh yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the self-love lifestyle just felt like, oh, that's the thing. And self-love was just starting to become a more widely used term. I mean, when I started doing it, people were like, are you talking about like self-pleasure
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
like, what are you
Please,
talking about?
please give me some brackets around this term to understand.
I mean, totally could be. That was not the focus though. The
Yeah.
focus for me was really learning how to love your body. And through the world of intuitive eating and body confidence and holistic health and just changing the way that we talk to ourselves. And it just evolved. It's interesting when you talk about how people are drawn into their soul work.
Mhm.
I don't know. Is that the term you used? Soul
Yeah,
work?
I call soul work or legacy work, but to me it's those golden
Yeah, a
threads that
legacy
run
work.
through your
Yeah.
life that's like, yeah, this is where I was
Yeah.
always meant to be going. It's just all unfolded as it. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, and as you were saying that, I'm like, I don't even like, I think I have a lot of legacy work. You know what I mean? It's like
Yes.
continuing to unfold. If you would have told me 10 years ago, I would be calling myself a priestess now. I'd be like, what? um, but I love seeing where it unfolds. But self-love really, yeah, it started out of finding purpose from my own pain with my relationship to my body and being able to heal myself through that and wanting to
Mhm.
focus on that in my business and then being really successful at it and helping people through it. And then it's just expanded out from there. And now I so rarely talk about the body in that way. It's so rarely a topic of conversation in my work, which is so funny because it was like my entire
The
work
focus.
when I
Yeah.
first
Yeah. Yeah.
started.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But as you evolve and as we said before, you've built such a a juicy connected community, which is obviously something that's been
Mhm.
really important to you as well, then that's like, well, you're just not just, there's no just about it, but responding to the evolution of that community and your own interest and enchantment. Word enchantment.
Yeah.
Actually, I want to say, when you talked about fairy tales and mythology, you reminded me of the beautiful Antoinette Mackenzie, who is an astrologer, who is she did a PhD in mythology and talks a
Cool.
lot about that. Yeah, so yes, I will link that episode down below because if this sort of stuff speaks to you, that is such a juicy conversation as well, because it's that, yeah, stepping into different ways of being and talking about astrology. She does is it Hellenistic? I can never remember, but it's the
Mhm.
older form of astrology, like the,
Yep.
I don't know, original. I don't know whether that's right, but
Yeah.
yeah, but she actually had a grandmother who was fascinated by mythology and fairy tales, and so she grew up, yeah, with that kind of lens of the world, that it's all this, like the stories playing out around us and how different ways of being. And yeah, so when you talked about it, I was like, oh yes, yes,
Beautiful.
yes, yes, similar sort of yeah, I find it fascinating because anything that helps us to better understand ourselves, I think, is a helpful thing. Like I am also like you, it's like
Mhm.
the depth thing. It's like I really just want to be more aware and more awake and more everything. Like give me all of it.
Mhm.
When you, because I'm interested. So do you train in intuitive eating? When you said you studied nutrition before,
I
is that the
did.
time? Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah.
I did the, so similar, recovering eating disorder, but I went to a different school that was not intuitive eating, so that just proliferated my eating disorder for another little
Oh
while.
man.
Anyway, that's fine. But I'm interested in when did you make the connection about, because intuitive eating is so much about being in touch with your body and your sensations and, trusting your body's signals. And
Yeah.
particularly if your family of origin, similar to mine, the weight thing is always, you're good if you're a certain weight and you're not if you're blah, blah, blah. So when did you make the connection that you needed to add in the body awareness stuff with yoga and the somatic processing?
That's a really good question. When did I make that connection?
Because it sounds like you
I
had
think it
it
was very
early.
It was gradual. And the irony is, I was doing that Kundalini yoga retreat at 17 because I wanted to lose weight, right?
Yes.
I'm going to do yoga every day. But like, that's not what happened, and because that's not the purpose of Kundalini yoga. I mean, I'm sure it can happen, but that's not the point.
I think the intention might be a bit flawed there. Anyway.
Yeah. But that's one of those things where you're like trying to get what you want, but then you get what you need, right?
Now
Which was a lot of what I was doing. Yeah.
My jukebox just playing Satisfaction in the background. Yes, continue. Sorry.
Well, it was it's the cognitive dissonance, right? Of like, I believe everybody is worthy inherently. I believe that we should all love ourselves. I believe that we should feel confident regardless of what our bodies look like with societal norms. Like I believe all of these things. So then why am I putting
At war
myself
with
through hell
myself.
to look a certain way?
Yeah.
And so I think it was just gradually over time chipping away at that cognitive dissonance because I had the belief system early on about like really spiritual belief systems in place early on. And so it was just about peeling back the cognitive dissonance. And over time with my training and school and education and all of the things I was compiling, I think the pieces started falling into place and I found myself in the right spaces and communities and receiving the right information in order for me to move through that.
Yeah, so cool. So cool. So cool. I'm interested when you did first get that traditional job, what were you trying to be in that traditional job? Like, I'm interested where you were led.
Yeah.
Where you knew so clearly.
I was doing marketing for an off-Broadway theater company.
Okay, gotcha.
And it was because I wanted to make the connections in the theater world. I, at the time, had an interdisciplinary women's artist collective where we did events that were part performance art and part ritual.
Oh, so cool.
And basically I created a coven. I was
just about to say, I'm like, that sounds like a very long name for a coven, but yes, okay.
It was, yeah. I was like, that was the world in which I had been, I'd been in the theater world. And so what I was trying to do, I was trying to priestess in the theater world.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I found myself, realizing, because I was also teaching yoga. I thought yoga was going to be, because my mom was a yoga teacher, and I thought yoga was going to be my side gig while I pursued creating theater piece, like interdisciplinary immersive theater piece. Like I thought I was doing like really cool, like off Broadway art.
Oh, you're doing well then.
It was really cool. Yeah, I was. But, then I realized I was like I happened to live across the street from an amazing healing center, Minka, Brooklyn, when I lived in Brooklyn. And I was like, I like myself more in this space than I do when I'm in the theater. And I realized a lot of what I was looking for in theater was that validation, and constantly seeking other people's approvals. And when you work in theater, it's like other people's random subjective opinions of your work is what determines your career. And I just was like done with that.
Yeah, that sounds hideous. It was like, let's put myself in rejection.
I wasn't really acting at that point. I only did one audition out of school, I was more wanting to produce and write. I was writing a lot of beautiful like music pieces, but I just I just realized I felt most myself and most free to be myself in the healing spaces.
So good, so
And
good.
so that's why I landed there.
Yeah. So when you started, I know I'm going backwards and forwards across your timeline, which I don't
That's
usually
okay.
do, but I keep on, my brain is going. Coming back to the ritual piece. So when you started the self-love lifestyle, like you had this awareness, and I love how the name just popped in because that's what happens to me as well. I'm like, oh,
Mhm.
okay, tell me more about that. It's a cool name. I love the language.
Mhm.
But was that straight away incorporating ritual as part of the teachings and the no? So where did the ritual come in? Like, where
No,
did you come out of the closet as a coven leader?
I know. Yeah. I know. It was always yeah. So my great uncle was a medicine man and shaman. And so I
Yes.
grew up in ceremony. My great 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 grandmother Lulaski was American Indian
Hmm.
and very likely was taken from her tribe. Her tribe was probably killed, and she, as a baby, was taken and raised by white folks in the South. I mean, just the
In the
very
South. Wow.
classic
Okay.
American.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my family was in like Kentucky, Missouri area.
Mm.
And then my great grandmother, I mean, and this is just trauma, trauma, trauma. And then my great grandmother, so this would have been her grandmother. So then her
Yes.
her granddaughter was my great grandmother.
Mm.
And there's a whole thing that blew up their lives. She and her three sisters in their late teens, early 20s moved to California. And then
Yeah.
that's how my family landed in California. And they always carried with them this like seed of knowing about our indigenous roots. And
Mhm.
my great uncle talked about how, you know, my great grandmother, his mom taught him how to plant in correspondence with the moon, right? You plant certain
Mm.
seeds with the
Yeah.
moon or
Yeah.
harvest during certain, like
Mhm.
these little
Mhm.
things kind of just carried forward. Um, and then he did a lot of work to retrace the blood lineage to learn ceremony. He lived on reservations
Mm.
and was a sun dancer and just reawoke those sacred ways in our bloodline.
Oh, yeah.
And then I came along and I was just the only other person in our family to really express interest in learning ceremony. So he taught me how to do
Oh.
ceremony. And but I was not talking about this. Like I was in my 20s at the time. So it was actually around the time I started my business. When he initiated me and I did a very mild vision
Mhm.
quest, I will
Mhm.
say. I was not out in the woods for days without food or
That's good.
I did go without food and water for about 24 hours and I was by myself,
Yeah.
but not for days. It honestly very triggering to my eating disorder. I was like, this is
Yeah.
not this is not the thing for me.
Mm.
Um,
No.
I think there are different ways to be initiated, but
Mhm.
that was, we were going with this specific lineage and he taught me how to use the peace pipe and it felt and that still feels very I mean, it's just a very specific practice, and it's not something that I do or share with the wide world,
Mm.
in part because it is so sacred to
Yes.
my family, and
Yes.
in part because it is so sacred to a very specific group of people.
Yes.
And he lived on reservations, and he was given blessings and permissions from elders to do this work, and he became an elder, but I have not. And I also have this whole other part of my blood lineage from Western Europe.
Mhm.
And so the priestess work I've been doing recently has been exploring and integrating a lot of that and the pagan ways. And I know I have ancestry from the Ogilvy clan of Scotland, which is like one of the
Mhm.
really old clans. And
Yes. Yes, it
like my
is.
great great grandmother was an Ogilvy, like that was her last name.
Wow.
I just I've been really wanting to very holistically light up all of the old ways from
Mhm.
all parts of my blood lineage, and to integrate that into my work. in a way that doesn't, cross boundaries
Yeah,
of
disrespect or yes.
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so coming out of the closet has really been a byproduct of me doing that work for myself. And when my
Yes.
great uncle passed away, he passed away in on January 11th, 2020.
Mm-hmm.
I did ceremony for him then, and I've sat in ceremony with his daughters, my cousins, but it's almost as if it was like that 2020 like time really shifted things when he was no longer physically
Mm.
present.
It's
And then I
interesting that
felt like
that's the year that you started. Was
it
it a lot?
was,
Did it feel
yeah.
like a handing over in a way?
Oh, I'm realizing no, he passed away in 2021. But
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
it was similar.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
similar timeline.
overlapping. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. And I feel like no longer having his physical presence around meant that I was like, okay, I need to figure more of this out on my own. And
Mm-hmm.
also byproduct of just continuing in the entrepreneurial space too, and the personal development work that comes along
Yeah.
with that.
Yeah. 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 The petri dish of personal development. It will trigger
Mhm.
every pattern that you have to heal.
Yeah.
So tell me more then about the priestess side of things, because I do have connection with someone who's trained under the same mentor that you've worked with, and
Yeah.
I remember feeling triggered is not the right word, but like um, what is the right? When she started using the word priestess, I had a really strong reaction that was like, well, hang on a minute. Can we claim that? Like, is that even allowed to, like, I don't know. My reaction
Oh,
was very interesting, and it feels still quite alive. And it doesn't feel like it's like a judgment of the person who's doing that. It's like, hang on, almost like, is that actually available to us? So it's obviously, my,
yeah.
my blinkers, but tell me more about that
Oh,
process. Like,
yeah.
how did you come to decide that that was something that you wanted to be, diving into? Or maybe it was just a natural evolution of what you were already doing, I think, by the sound of it.
Yeah. I mean, just to validate your experience, when I first heard people priestessing, I had a very similar response of like, who are you to priestess? Like the priestesses don't exist anymore.
Well, that
Like,
I was
you
kind
know
of
what
like,
I
hang
mean?
on. Like,
Yeah.
can we do that on Earth? Like, are
Yeah.
we allowed to do it? That was my,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Um, so because I was initiated by my great uncle, I guess I could technically have called myself like a medicine woman if I wanted to, but that just it felt appropriative.
Yes.
And I
That is, yeah,
always
I
felt
understand.
a call to outside of that or alongside that, I
Hmm.
always felt a call to the divine feminine.
Hmm.
Like my 13th birthday party was a belly dance party where I brought goddess oracle cards for all my 7th grade 13-year-old friends to do with me, like like I felt, and that's through the fairy tales and mythology too,
Yeah.
right? These very strong, like goddess figures. I've
Hmm.
just had a pull towards that. And
Yeah.
I was 16 when I started talking to God as a woman.
Yeah.
So I've had this strong relationship with the divine feminine for more of my life than I haven't. And I just realized, okay, if I'm going to do spiritual leadership work, which was just kind of organically
Yes.
happening,
Yes.
and I want to do it in alignment with divine feminine, then I guess I'm a priestess. It was kind of,
Yeah.
and when I came across people calling themselves priestesses in communities like the one I'm in with, Kalila, my mentor,
Yes.
they were talking about what a priestess does. And I was like, that's what I do.
Hang on a minute. I'm
I would,
already doing
I,
that. I just missed the title.
yeah,
That's very cool.
yeah. I mean, I was calling myself a ritual facilitator, which I think I still do. But like, I'm like, oh, actually, I'm a priestess and doing the training and embodiment work in the specific lineage of the 13 Moon Mystery School, which your friend is also
Yeah.
in.
Yeah.
Um, allows it to be official. And I do think there does need to be, for integrity, there does need to be training and there does need to be a a community of people that hold each other accountable
Absolutely.
to being in integrity and walking the talk and
Yes.
being able to be on board with what this means and how we function in the world and what the value systems are as a collective,
Mm.
but really it's a remembering, because the priestesses priestesses were so much a part of our human society for so long.
Mm.
I mean, every single one of us comes from a shamanic background. Like, if you go back far enough, all of our ancestors did earth-based,
Yeah.
spiritual, ceremonial
Mhm.
work. I mean, that was it. That was the number one healing modality.
Yeah.
And then the priestesses, were like part of that evolution. There were priestesses as there are priests, and in matriarchal societies, women were seen as like amazing way to connect to source.
Yeah. The seed of magic
And
and
then
power. Yeah. Mhm.
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. I mean, my belief is that like the divine lives in all of us.
Yes.
And I just connect to the divine through the divine feminine.
Mhm.
But I believe you can also obviously connect to the divine through the sacred masculine. It's
Mhm.
all part of the same
Yeah.
circle. But with the priestesses having been erased largely due to Abrahamic religions and colonialism and the patriarchy and that
Mhm.
whole melting pot of
That whole
stuff.
clusterfuck. Yeah.
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 uh, priestesses have been largely like there was no pathway to become a priestess. And,
No.
and then it's only been recently in the past 100 years that it's been safe enough for women to step out, because we haven't been as under threat of being literally burned at the stake in this part of the world,
Mm.
especially.
It's interesting because the reaction that I had, it feels connected to that. Feels like it's like my reaction felt like, can we do that? Like, is that okay?
Is
It's
that
almost like, is
safe?
it safe? Yeah. Can I actually
Yeah.
claim that? Mm. Mm.
Yeah. I mean, if we talk about like intergenerational trauma and what we
Yes.
carry in our collective unconscious, it's like the witch burnings were over such a long period of time. And even before that, just the eradication of
Mhm.
the earth-based spiritual traditions.
Yeah.
And when we have had our ancestors be part of that experience and
Yeah.
it's remained in our collective unconscious, we would have fear. And I mean, this is called the witch wound, right? And then we
Mhm.
see this in anybody who's maybe feeling afraid to share their spirituality or afraid to even just like be a woman
Yeah.
like in the
Yeah.
world,
Just that surface level. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's like a great reason why there's a huge legacy of persecution of women in general, but especially women who are a little weird and a little, talking to trees and working with herbs.
I love that we're having this conversation right now because oh no, I'm not going to say that on the podcast, but yeah, I've been sitting in ritual this week. So yeah, there's a lot going on that's in alignment to this, but I would prefer to keep that private. When you first started the training, was there still tendrils of that, oh, can I really claim this or step up into
Mhm.
this? Like what did you start bumping up against, if anything, in your own unconscious, the conditioned unconscious, that was surprising to you? Did you notice,
Mm,
like, I didn't phrase that question very well, but like, did you notice resistance coming
I
up that you didn't
understand.
expect? Mm.
Hmm. Yeah, I think it's been a very gradual, organic process of sharing this with my community. Because when I started specifically doing the priestess work, I'd already had my guided rituals membership, which is a library of over 100 rituals.
I
and
need to come and
mini ceremonies.
marinate in this work of
Yeah.
yours. You mentioned that the other day, and I was like, hang on a minute. Tell us more about that before you
Yeah.
go on to what you were going to say.
Yeah, I mean, the guided ritual started as I was just doing Instagram lives, sharing my daily spiritual practice.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt, and it was during, pandemic times. So I felt like this is easy. I'm just going to share my spiritual practice and be inspiring to people. And this was before I was ever offering ritual professionally. And I was self-love coaching, like very specifically.
Yeah.
But I was like, let me just share this is my morning spiritual practice. Here you go. And, I'd pull goddess cards and I'd interpret them and bring them into a meditation. And so I called them guided rituals. And then over time, I was like, oh man, like this is actually really cool to share this. And they're usually 20 minutes or less, like bite-sized daily spiritual practices that include not only a divination portion, like a card reading, but also an integration somatic piece that brings the message, not just like pulling a card where you're like, okay, I get, that I'm supposed to be still, or I'm supposed to like release whatever this thing is. But then we bring it into the subconscious mind and into the body and into the energy field, because I also have all these energy healing trainings that I've done, and I love energy work. And so it's bringing it into that, again, that depth, that deeper level. But it's not about the quantity of time that you spend in this work. It's about the quality of the work. And so that's why I love the bite-sized practices. And I'm all about like integrating things into your life as your life unfolds. You don't have to like stop and disrupt your life to try to be this like perfect version of whatever you think your spirituality should be. Right.
Or have 6 hours to do it every day.
Yeah. We're not going to be monks in a cave. Like that's just not what this is.
I get bored very easily.
Yeah. Same.
Yeah.
But we can still be in connection to source. There's whoever we pray to. So then I created the guided rituals membership out of that Instagram live series I'd been doing that for like a year. And then I decided to actually make it real and legit and put it in a membership. And so it's an app now on iOS, and the Android's about to be released. Yeah. So fun. Yeah. And so I'd already been doing that, for a while before I ever started doing my priestess work, which is why I was like, wait, I'm already doing it.
Yeah, this
priestess thing is something I'm already doing it.
I went first.
So it's just been a matter of giving myself permission to actually claim that title, which is the most, for all the reasons I mentioned before in regards to my lineage and my belief system around divine feminine. Priestess is the most appropriate term.
Yes.
And so anything I was bumping up against in terms of like, people are going to think I'm weird or crazy, or is this legit? Can I do this? Like, I just was like, but this is like by definition that like, that's what I do,
I'm already doing it. So it's, I wonder if it would have been different if it was reversed. Like you came across the training and the term priestess came before the ritual, because it sounds like the evolution was just an obvious, because you were all, like you were saying, I'm already doing all of these things. Like I'm already doing the things. Just I haven't claimed the title.
Yeah. I mean, I wish like this community and training and body of work that was created by Ariel Spilsbury many, many years ago. Like I'm working under somebody who worked under her. So I'm already like a granddaughter in this lineage.
Yes.
And I wish that I had found this sooner. Like I really do. But all of these things are, we find them at exactly the time we're meant to find them.
Yeah, exactly. And you've got so many years. So I want to talk about the alchemical coaching, because I know you have something special that's unfolding at the time that this episode goes to air. So do you want to share a bit about that?
Yeah. So alchemy is the process of turning a base metal into gold. But when we look at the history of alchemy, there's this whole other component of personal and spiritual transformation that has to occur as you do the like chemistry of turning this metal into gold. And so alchemy is used in psychological and in psychology and spiritual spaces as a metaphor, not only a metaphor of like, can I transmute this pain into purpose, or can I transmute this darkness that I hold within myself into meaning, but also this real dedication of being on a path of transformation, of being deeply connected to real spiritual alignment. It's a process of purification and transformation.
Yeah.
And so when I talk about alchemical coaching, it's really, and at its core, it's embodying. And what I see in people is, how can you transform your pain into a gift, into gold? Like, we all have trauma. Some of us have capital T trauma. Some of us have baby T trauma, and some of us have both. And I have found in my personal experience that the way of healing trauma for me has always been when I can find the lesson I was supposed to learn, or the meaning or the gift that I'm able to offer the world.
100%.
And so if we're wanting, and I also believe hurt people, right? So if I'm looking at wanting to do this work in the world, or any work in the world, trying to benefit the world in some way, right? Like trying to leave a legacy, like leave this place a little bit better than I found it.
Yep.
Which I'm hoping we all have that, value system.
Yes.
Then I'm like, okay, so what has been the most transformative thing for me to ensure I am not unconsciously harming people?
Yes.
Right? I'm not unconsciously operating under this conditioning that makes it so that I'm
doing harm.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Even if unintentionally, right? And it has been really revealing the darker parts of myself and going to the depths of my trauma and my belief systems about myself that the trauma created, and doing the deeper ego work. And so alchemical coaching is like doing that. And then you swim to the depths of your psyche of like, oh man, I believe all of these horrible things about myself in the world.
Yeah.
And I'm holding on to these things from my ancestors, from the collective unconscious. And I'm going to dig through all of this, because at the bottom of it, there is a gem. And this gem is the gift that I have to share with the world.
Correct.
And so when I talk about alchemical coaching, it's that process of finding that gem.
You are
through
speaking
the
my
digging
language.
through all the darkness.
Speaking my language. Yeah. Yeah. I have a whole series of things I want to say about sharing your story with the world, which is exactly around this. It's like we all choose a purpose. Like, that's my belief system, that before we come here, we choose what we're meant to be delivering. And we also sign up for all of the stuff that is going to bring it out of us. And sometimes that does unfortunately require pain, often. And particularly if you choose a healing path, it is very often because you've transmuted pain into power or purpose or whatever the gift is. And it's like, you've got to go first and swim to the depths before you can actually, get a chance to transmute it and then share. And I think there's a lot of the time people want to step into healing and helping work, but they're very afraid of what is underneath the surface of that, or going to the depths that we're talking about. I'll go here, but do I really want to go there? And I'm like, it is all inversely proportional to how deep you want to go as to what, impact and influence and ripple effect you can offer. That's my belief system.
Yeah. I mean, I can speak to that fear for sure. I think, you're not going to find out anything about yourself that you don't already know. That's the first part of it. The second part is that actually any scary thing that you find out in that world of the unconscious is just protecting you from seeing probably a wounded inner child.
Yep. That's it.
So what you're going to come up against is a part of you that's going to feel scary, that's going to be like, no, don't look here, don't look here, don't look here. And you're going to be like, no. I'm going to look here. And
Mhm.
the way that we come to it is with love, right? It's like we
Mm.
have to love. This is the self-love component. We have to love our scary parts of ourselves. And then you look deeper and you see that scary part is actually hiding an inner child part or
Totally.
a part
Yeah.
that's been wounded, a very vulnerable part
Mhm.
that actually is not scary at all. And then you can hold that part, and then suddenly, whatever was holding you back from realizing your worth or whatever is keeping you stuck in these confines of how you think you should be or who you think you should be,
Mhm.
begin to over time soften
Yeah.
because you're going to those original wounds that created those belief systems and you are loving them into healing. We
Mhm.
can't shame or hide from ourselves into healing. We have to love ourselves into
Mm.
healing.
Yeah.
And
My
that
whole
does
body
require a certain level
feels,
of bravery.
I feel like I'm like oozing on the inside. That's it. It's actually,
Yeah.
I woke up in the middle of the night last night and I was like, no, I really don't want to have another night of being awake for long stretches. And so I just thought, I'm just going to pop on. I've got an app that I've got hypnotherapy on and then some, shadow work
Hmm.
integration stuff. And so I just put one of the shadow work up, but I can't see without my glasses on. So I'm like, this is the middle of the night. And I just picked one. And it was a similar process that it was just a longer term. I was like, I just wake up going, I just feel all soft and mushy. And because, yeah, it's exactly. And I think for me personally, it's been learning to trust that I have the strength and ability to hold the wounded part of me, even though that,
Hmm.
the other part that's playing protector and is like, no, this is going to be bad,
Hmm.
scary, whatever, to understand. But before I started processing my trauma, I really seriously believe that if I went at any depth, I would not be able to deal with it. It'd be like a Pandora's box of emotion that I
Yeah.
would never be able to put the lid back on. And through doing this type of work, I feel like you expand your capacity for self-love and self-compassion and holding yourself and actually looking at the bits that you
Hmm.
feel like are, you know, the most shame-inducing or guilt-inducing or whatever, like any of the dark stuff. And then you're like, oh, it's all just little bits of me that have been left back in time at that particular whatever happened. And yeah, it's such a beautiful, just feel like you reclaim parts of yourself that have been kind of stranded with no tending or
Yeah.
um and certainly if you've experienced that sort of childhood stuff where there hasn't been a safe person to help you process. Um when you was so you're going to be
Yeah.
teaching, you're going to be passing this on in a body of work too.
Yeah, I am. So what I've developed is what I call the sacred method. And, there are certainly ways that you could do this deep shadow work
Mm.
through through different therapeutic modalities.
Yes.
And I think there are modalities out there that can definitely feel really scary because if you're going into a therapeutic modality, and I've done this too,
Mm.
and it's been beneficial for certain things, but where you're actually having to relive every
Oh yeah.
single second of your trauma, right? And that can be great. Like, and there can be exposure therapy can be great. Like, there's a time and a place for all of these beautiful modalities that we have available
Hmm.
to us at this
Hmm.
point in time. Amazing. What I love about archetypal coaching is that you can work with the archetypes. You can work with the quintessential energy without getting into the specifics and the circumstances.
Hmm.
And so you go straight to the emotion and you transform the emotional. And when you're working with these parts of yourself, you don't have to relive your memories, right? Maybe that can come up, but like when I do this work for myself, like I have parts of me that are like so many of my parts are like fairy tale work, right? It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
right? Like the
Love
princess, I have the witch, I have all these things, but it will heal the darker stuff without you having to go in there. So I think
it.
especially for people who are worried about that, um, this is a great pathway. But the sacred method is a deep dive coaching process that I've created. It's a framework I've been developing that is I'm seeing such incredible results with it. People who show up and they're like, I really want to heal. Um, I had a client who was like, I really feel like as a mom, she's a new mom, and she's like, I can't be a mom and be an entrepreneur because if I'm a mom, if I'm an entrepreneur, it means I'm a bad mom. But if I'm not doing my work, it means I'm a bad feminist. And how do I? And so we
Wow.
like did this. Yeah. And so but what we did is we went deeper into her belief systems, beyond that. And what I'm seeing in these sessions, it's like people will have soul retrievals. They'll have past life regressions. They'll have ancestral healing. So you come in and you think you're working on something, and it ends up being something else in a really short amount of time, through this specific process I've created. So I'm going to be teaching this process in the Sacred Method Facilitator training in 2025. And I'm so excited because it's all of the best of the very potent coaching frameworks and the sacred spiritual ceremonial work, which is the original healing modality for a reason.
Yum. So it starts in 2025 because this will be out in November. And I'm sure that when we come to publication, actually, you'll have to send me the link. This is very exciting. What would you say, who would you specifically like to call in to that coaching modality? Like, who are you speaking to directly in terms of the people you can feel in there already, I'm sure, because I'm sure you've already created this.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like the people who will love this work are people who are probably already somewhat in the space of healing, who have done some work before. I'm not saying this wouldn't be okay for newbies, but I think the people who this is really going to light them up are people who have been doing this. And they want a container that is going to provide deep level personal transformation, but will also give them a very practical structure that is easy to replicate, is going to be transformational. And that gives you the confidence as a practitioner to say, look, I know I can help you. And I know this is going to be really powerful for you. And then you also want the container and the community for your own nurturance of self and your own growth of self, really echoing what you were talking about of like, you can only expand as high as far deep as you're willing to go.
Yeah.
And this is the space for that. I love that Anais Nin quote. I have no fear of depths, but a great fear of shallow water. Wait, I must be a mermaid. It's not misquoting it, but I must be a mermaid. I have no fear of depths, but a great fear of shallow water. So if you are a mermaid, this is for you.
Oh, I love that. Oh, what a perfect invitation. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. How long will the training be? Do you want to share about that?
I believe it'll be I'm finishing out all the details now, somewhere between 7 and 9 months.
Beautiful. Oh, it sounds delicious. Now, where can we? Actually, I want to ask one more question. If someone's listening to this and they have felt the call to deepen in terms of a spiritual life, because it sounds like, as I'm learning more about your story, you've had a very alive spiritual connection and practice and guidance from a young age. And I definitely didn't have that in my family. We weren't at all connected to ritual, spirituality, religion, nothing. There was no sort of framework outside of this pretty much. If someone's listening and they're feeling this stirring inside of them about the fact that they don't have a depth of spiritual practice, where could they start? Like, if this is for the people that aren't necessarily the mermaids that you just called in.
Yeah.
Where could they start? Is there somewhere in
if you're a minnow?
Yeah, exactly.
If you're in the tide pools, maybe you're a sea star.
A rock.
Guided rituals is definitely the place to go. My great uncle told me when I was like, okay, hey, Oka, I'm going to be really serious. I want to do this work in the world. Or I don't even think I framed it that way. I just said, I really want to go deeper with my spirituality. He said, you need to have a daily spiritual practice. And he's like, I don't care what it looks like. It could be meditating, it could be yoga. It could, he was like, you just have to have that daily practice. And that was big inspiration for guided rituals. So I think that's an amazing way. And I have over 100 rituals in there. And there's the joke among my friends. They're like, Melanie, I'm going through this thing. Do you have a ritual for that?
Ritual for
I have a
that?
ritual for that.
Love it. I love it. I love it. I love it.
I
What's
have
the
a
app
ritual for that.
called? We'll put the links in the show notes.
Guided
just for people.
rituals.
Guided rituals. Okay, perfect.
Mhm.
You have been so beautiful to talk to. I just love depth and enchantment. I'm going to take that through my day today. And also the mermaid. I have a beautiful.
Yeah. I'm actually,
You go.
oh, I was just going to say, I'm thinking, so I'm kind of in the process of rebrand with the sacred method becoming more of a thing. The self-love lifestyle is kind of becoming its own thing. And whatever. And I was playing around with new podcast titles for my podcast. And it was working with depth and enchantment. So it's nice that
I can already
the words
see
I
that.
was working on.
Yeah.
Okay.
That speaks to me. And
We'll
also
talk about
the
it
fact-
in our mastermind.
Yeah. Thank you so much. It's been such a joy to have you on.
Oh, thank you. Did you just say something? You were saying something about.
I was just about to say, I've got this beautiful picture of the Empress archetype that's in front of me that I've had as my guiding, somatic sensation. And also, it's that guidance of the quintessential, as you said before. And I feel like she's just been like, observing this beautiful conversation. Very
Oh, I receive her. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Melanie. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to Wild and Finally Fucking Free. I'm Kylie, your host. And given that I know you would have enjoyed this episode, please do us a favor and subscribe, leave a review, and share it with fellow freedom seekers. Remember, being seen in all our mess and magic helps heal ourselves and the world, because the world needs more wild and finally fucking free humans. Have a great day.